Hey guys, I just got back from a mindset event that was held in Salt Lake City, Utah. My son Noah and I flew out there, and it was a good experience. We learned a ton, and I wanted to share with you guys my main takeaway, and that was basically being able to spot the difference between when I'm falling into a victim mindset versus a healthy mindset, because successful people maintain a healthy mindset. Unsuccessful people fall into a victim mindset unintentionally most of the time. And he gave us the tools to be able to spot which category we fall under and just be able to turn it around and make the shift to a healthy mindset. So he started out by sharing with us a story. He said, about 10 years ago, my favorite band in the world was Radiohead. Like, he was obsessed with Radiohead. He loved them. And so he looked up their website, wanted to see when and where they were going on tour. The closest place they were going to be to him was LA, which was a 15-hour drive from where he lived in Idaho. And so he was like, man, $100 is like $1,000,000 to me right now, but it's going to be worth it. And we're going to do it. He calls his friend up. He's like, dude, we got to go. And so his friend was like, yes, I'm in. Let's do it. So they bought the tickets and they started the countdown. They're super stoked. Preston's like, I just counted down days. I just could not wait. So months go by. He hadn't heard from his friend. So about a week before the trip, he calls his friend up and he's like, dude, let's plan our trip out. When we leaving? Where are we staying at? Whose car are we driving? Et cetera, et cetera. And his friend was like, yeah, about that. I actually could not afford the gas to go in my car to get to LA, so I sold your ticket. So sorry. And he was like, what? Dude, that wasn't even your ticket to sell. And so then Preston wanted to know. He turned to the audience and he's like, what did you guys feel just then? And of course, everybody's like, oh, disappointment. We feel bad for you. So sad. All of that, right? So then he asked us to make a list of attributes of a victim mindset. What is a victim mindset? And also keep in mind, as you see this list that I'm about to show you that we came up with, just know that everybody falls into this mindset at some point. Some people fall into it more often than others. Some people choose to stay there and others choose to come out of it. Okay, so let's just talk about what is a victim mindset. And I'm going to share my screen here. Right, here we go. So victims, people with a victim mindset, and also side note, I'm not talking about victims of sexual abuse, physical abuse, things like that. We're just talking about just life happening to people and how you respond, because it is a fact that you are not a product of your circumstances. You are a product of how you respond to them. Okay, so we're talking about everyday life. We all have problems, and I'm not referring to somebody who has truly been a victim of some type of abuse. Okay, and we're going to talk about more about how it doesn't necessarily mean you're at fault or not at fault, because mindset is a choice, right? Okay, so victim mindset. Whiners, they whine. They don't get their way. They whine. They complain. They're selfish. They make excuses. Oh, the excuses, right? Excuses are all the reasons why you couldn't do something that you tell yourself that nobody else believes, right? And we've all done it, okay? Blaming other people and not taking responsibility for their own actions. He called it no accountability. Energy vampire, right? They just kind of suck the energy out of you because they're so negative. Self-loathing, which comes across as kind of like a false humility, which is also on this list. Negative attention hog, no action, prideful, or false humility, which is also prideful. Know-it-all, entitled, right? The world owes them something because I'm a victim, right? This happened to me, therefore you owe me this. Defensive or easily offended. You ever been around somebody you feel like you have to walk on eggshells around them? Not fun to be around those type of people. Anger, like they're always angry. Drama, always got to have some drama going on. That way they don't get bored. They blow problems way out of proportion, right? They act like problems are just complete catastrophes, okay? So these are attributes of a victim mindset. Think about a time in your own life where you have been a victim, right? You have felt hurt by some circumstance or some person did you wrong in some regard, okay? So when he asked us to think of a time where we have been a victim, I thought of a time when my grandfather died and I was asked to sing at his funeral. And it was kind of a big deal, right? I mean, my grandfather just died. So I'm getting ready. I'm walking out the door, going to sing at my grandfather's funeral, and my car was gone. Like somebody had literally stolen my car. And so, long story short, I didn't get to sing at the funeral. I didn't even get to go to the funeral. Had no way to get there. Everybody was at work. By the time they would have been able to get off work, come get me, and take me to the funeral, it would have been over anyway. So I did not even get to go. And somebody had stolen my car out of my driveway, dropped it off in the ghetto, and left it there, took a knife and sawed the stereo system out because it was a Honda. And with a Honda, you have to remove the whole dash to take the stereo equipment out, and they didn't know how to do that apparently, or didn't have time. And so instead of removing it properly, you couldn't even rip it out. They literally cut it out, okay? So thousands of dollars worth of damage, and then just left my car there and took off. So that was one time in my life where I really felt like a victim. Like I felt violated. That was so wrong, right? Okay. So let's move along. So let's talk about the opposite of victim mindset, healthy mindset. So this is what successful people do. They are generally positive people, okay? Not that they never get wronged or nothing bad ever happens to them, but generally they are half glass full type of people, right? They're going to try to see the silver lining in that cloud. They're solution finders. They're not going to sit there and whine and complain about a problem. They're going to take action and try to find the solution. They're gratitude. Guys, happy people are thankful people. Successful people are generally pretty thankful for all of the good things in their life. And they're not sitting there dwelling on all of the negative all the time. They are grateful. They communicate. So instead of just sitting there seething and angry or calling their friend up and, about this person or that, I can't believe they did that. Or, can you believe this? They communicate. They go to the person who has offended them or whatever, and they try to get to the root of the issue. They communicate if there is an issue. They are accountable. In other words, they take responsibility for their own actions. They're not blaming other people. If they mess up, hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I made a mistake. I failed. Can you forgive me? Right? They are responsible for their own actions. They're peaceful as a result of all of this. They have joy. They're builders. They are constructive. They spend their time doing constructive things, building up. And what's the opposite of that? Tearing down, right? They're happy people. Healthy mindset, happy. They are equivalent, okay? If you want to be happy, it really does start in your mind. They're confident. They're resilient because, like I said, they have problems too, but they generally bounce back from those problems. They are just the facts. Tell me the facts. Here's the facts. They have a back office issue or whatever. They're not calling their dual liaison, just whining, griping, complaining about all the emotional turmoil that this has put them through. Just facts. Here's the situation. Here's what we need done. The end, okay? Leave all the drama and emotion out of it. Just facts. Tell me the facts. How do we fix it? And they're generally kind people because they're not so wrapped up in themselves that they can't think about blessing another person. Okay, they're generous, right? Okay, so these are some attributes of a healthy mindset. Okay, so, and then here, under victim, he called this an unconscious reactor. These people are reacting to just situations and issues all day long. They're just constantly in reacting mode. These people are conscious creators. Who are the unconscious reactors that you know? Who are the conscious creators that you know? Are you this one or are you this one? And truth be told, you're probably both at some point, right? Depending on, it could depend on what you ate for lunch. It could depend on what time of the month it is. If you're a lady, you know what I'm talking about, right? So it really, you have to be intentional about living here and not here, because I think we naturally tend toward this. But if you want to be super successful, you need to develop and cultivate and be intentional about living on this side, because we all have problems. And you are not a product of your circumstances, right? You are a product of how you respond, okay? All right, so now, with that story from earlier in mind, Preston said, now let me tell you the story again. I want to tell you the accountable version of this story. So my favorite band is Radiohead. And I absolutely am obsessed with Radiohead. I went on their website, looked them up, wanted to see when they're going on tour, where they're going to be. Closest place they were going to be to me was LA. It was a 15-hour drive. And it was $100 for a ticket. $100 back then was like $1 million. So I called my friend up, and he wants to go too. But $100 to him was also like $1 million. But we still wanted to go. So I didn't have the money to buy my ticket at that point. And so my friend, who was just as excited as I was, he bought my ticket for me. He fronted me the money, and I promised him I'd pay him back. Well, I began counting down days. I was so excited, but I didn't really have the money to pay him back yet. And so it was kind of awkward when I was around him. So I just kind of didn't bring it up. I just kind of avoided the topic. But really, I was so excited. I could not wait. Months go by. My friend hadn't heard from me. Every time we were around each other, I just kind of avoided the topic. And so he was getting signals that I just didn't really want to go anymore. And so months go by, and then here we are a week out, and he wants to go to the concert. He's already bought these 2 tickets. He hasn't heard from me. I haven't paid him back like I promised, or made any effort or sent any signals that I am going to pay him back. And so he made a decision to cut his losses and sell my ticket. So that's the accountable version of the same story. And then he said, now how do you feel about this situation? Do you still feel sorry for me? Probably not, because you can see the other person's point of view. So victim mindset people, they generally don't take the time to see another person's point of view. Try to figure out the other person's perspective. It's almost like being a toddler, right? You can't reason with them. And then people over here, they are just going to take more responsibility for their actions, okay? So, questions to ask yourself when you're thinking about your own victim story, and also if you are in that mindset or in a healthy mindset, you can ask yourself a few questions. And by the way, I also wanted to share with you the accountable version of my story of when my car was stolen when I was going to sing at my grandfather's funeral, and I completely missed it. Didn't get to even go, much less sing at it. Here's the accountable version. I left my key in the console of my car the night before. I totally forgot about the key in the console the night before. There was a spare key in my console. And when I walked out the door, that was the first thing I thought of. My key was in there, and somebody just was tempted. They were walking by looking for, an easy target, and that was it. I just left the key right there for them. Now, does it make it my fault? No, it's not my fault that somebody stole my car. They still should not have stolen the car. But here's the thing. Accountability and taking responsibility for your own actions in a situation has absolutely nothing to do with whose fault it is. Okay? So that is really important to keep in mind, because there's always two sides in every story, right? And even if you are completely innocent, you more than likely took a risk. For example, if you are sitting in traffic, say you're just sitting at a red light, minding your own business, driving perfectly safe, have your seatbelt on, you have your turn signal on, you're driving perfectly safe, but you are stopped at a red light just exactly like you're supposed to be, and then suddenly somebody rams into the back of your car. Is that your fault? No, it's not your fault. But what part do you play in this situation? You took a risk by driving, right? You knew that you were taking a risk before you got behind the wheel and decided to go somewhere. Does it make it your fault? No. But it does mean you decided to take that risk, okay? Because you could have stayed at home, right? It doesn't make it your fault, but we're taking accountability here. So apply that to your business, okay? If somebody rejects you or is rude to you or like whatever, you get hurt or you're not successful or whatever, sometimes it's not your fault at all. But in business, you are making a decision to take risks every single day because it's worth it, right? But sometimes you're going to get bumped, and sometimes it's not your fault at all. But just know that risk is inherent with anything you do that's worth it. All right? So last thing, questions to ask yourself to see if you are in the right mindset. How did I cause, contribute to, or allow this situation? What message did I send? What signal did I send? What happens when I look at this situation from somebody else's perspective? What am I pretending not to know? And what did I intentionally leave out? So when I was telling you my victim story, I intentionally left out the fact that I left my key in the car, right? When Preston was telling his victim story, he intentionally left out all the details about how his friend actually bought the ticket for him and he was supposed to pay him back, all that jazz, right? What are you intentionally leaving out, okay? If you were to apply this to Leaders Retreat and not making it on the boat, how are you accountable in this story, okay? Are you falling into a victim mindset, or do you have a healthy mindset? Are you taking responsibility and moving forward armed with that experience and that knowledge, okay? At any moment, I am responsible for being an unconscious reactor or a conscious creator. What can I control to cause a shift to being a conscious creator? Just things to think about, no matter what situation in your life that you're in. This could apply to any realm of your life. It could apply to your business, but it also applies to your marriage or your parenting or your personal development. It doesn't matter. This applies, okay? So ask yourself these questions and take some time to reflect and then move forward in your business and in your life. Start taking accountability for your own actions, because if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not successful in my business because, and that because has something to do with anything besides yourself, then you are in a victim mindset. If you're blaming your upline, it's not your upline's job to grow your business or help you be successful, okay? There's nobody's name on your paycheck except for yours. Does a good upline help? Yes, it does. But you guys have good leaders in our team page and just in this company as a whole. Because I've talked to many, many Jules who have had no upline support at all. And you know what they did? They trained themselves on YouTube, okay? So if you're blaming your upline, if you're saying, oh, well, this person is successful because they just had better timing than me, or that person is successful because they had a larger network than I did, or they just started out with lots of influence. If you're pointing fingers or blaming, or you're just saying, I'm not successful in my business because, and it has something to do with anything besides yourself, then you are falling into a victim mindset, and that is not going to help you move forward and reach your goals in your business, okay? So just some things to think about. Have you been falling into a victim mindset? And like I said before, we've all done it, okay? So there's no shame or judgment there. It's just that you have to accept it. You have to recognize it and accept it so that you can move on for it. Excuse me. Okay, hope this helped you guys. Bye.